Hello listeners, we are your co-hosts Jeanine Bailey and Marie Quigley for the Empower World Coaching and Leadership Podcast. Empower World brings guests who are making a difference to the world to inspire coaches and leaders who lead with mind, heart and soul. Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Empower World Coaching and Leadership Podcast. And today I am with a very, very special guest who is supporting me to create this podcast today for you. And I'm currently in Australia, in the Wadawurrung country, part of the Kulin Nation, which is down south. And I'm with Kayoko Nidsaid, who is currently in Qatar and Doha, Qatar. And Kayoko is someone I've known for a number of years now. She came through our program, our coach training program. Kayoko, you can say what year it is when you introduce yourself. And Kayoko has been one of these amazing women who has really stepped into her power. She's made these wonderful commitments to herself, to support herself so that she's in the most wonderful place to support others. And we know that she's certainly doing that, creating that beautiful ripple effect in Doha and across the world. So we are going to be talking about boundaries today. So welcome, Kayoko. Could I hand over to you to say a little bit more about yourself, please?
Thank you so much, Jeanine. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. So I'm so honored to be sitting here with you and to be sharing this wonderful topic with the rest of the empowered alumni and perhaps also people out there that want to know more about what's going on in terms of life coaching and the topic that you'll introduce pretty soon. So, but to start about myself, my journey with life coaching started back in 2021. It was a very difficult period because I lost a dear member of my family. But the platform that you provided was exactly what I needed at the moment that I needed it the most. And it was actually a time in my life when I was able to really find out, who I am, because I realized that I've lived so many years living the life of what everyone wanted me to live, but not myself. So, I always took care of my professional career, but I never took care of myself. And what I've done with Empower World has really given me that opportunity to have a 360-degree look at my life. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm a mom, 3 kids, married, from a very multicultural background. So I have a lot of different cultural pressures, perhaps, that come into my life. Very independent woman. Wanted to always be a superwoman, but now I've learned to be more realistic about what I can and cannot do. And very much about helping other women like me find out what is possible and what we need to accept and let go. So yes, thank you, Mer.
Yeah, thank you, Kayoko. And it's beautiful again to hear your story and knowing that you've peeled back layers as you've shared, and the different cultural pressures that were there, that you, if it's okay to use these words, which I think you've used, that you made up about yourself and realized, I've just got to be me, authentic me, step into that really powerful person that's always been there, instead of living according to what potentially has been expected of you, or the expectations that you created for yourself, if that makes sense. And I've just really admired and been inspired by your story of recognizing, actually these different cultural influences are a blessing. And I'm seeing you nod and smile there, but they are a beautiful blessing. And I love how you have shared about not wanting to be a superwoman, but actually to look after yourself. But as you've done that, I'm hearing you step into your superpower of being that wonderful role model who, by being yourself, supports others. like like your cousin, I think it's your cousin in South America, the story that you've just shared with me before we came on, how your words have resonated with her and supported her. So thank you for being authentically you, Kayoko.
Thank you so much, Jeanine. And yes, it's amazing how, if we give ourselves the opportunity to just find out who we really are, like I was saying, perhaps all these different cultural influences and pressures, they expect me to be one certain way with that particular area. I have understood that my mum sees me a specific way, my husband a different way, my kids a different way, my colleagues, my friends. And the only real person that knows who I am, apart from my creator, of course, it's me. I'm the one that really knows, what I like, what I don't like, what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, when I'm pretending to be someone else because that's what's expected of me, and when I'm actually, like you just mentioned, being authentically me. And I think the beautiful side is to understand and acknowledge that every angle of me, it's wonderful. There's no aspects that's bad. So, being able to acknowledge that for myself and being able to really be proud of who I am today. Some of those challenging situations that, like you taught us, bring a gift every single time, has now put me in a place where I am of being really happy in my own skin, if that's what I can call it. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautifully said. And a good segue into what we're going to look at today. I'm hearing you being aware and grateful for all those different cultural aspects, learnings, experiences that has brought you here today. I'm hearing that gratitude, and I'm also potentially hearing how because you've become aware of what's important and what's not important to you, it's supported you to create effective boundaries. If I can say effective boundaries, that sounds a bit dry. Powerful, healthy boundaries in place. Yeah. So, Kyoko, if you could lead us into the boundaries, what they mean and what that means to you, and perhaps what has unfolded because you've been able to do that, or wherever it takes you, Kyoko. I really trust that you've got a beautiful story inside to share.
So I think one of the main lessons that I've learned about myself in the last, 8, 9 months, it's that boundaries are so important. Not just boundaries with everyone else, but also with myself. So if I may be able to explain that further, I've been with everyone else, I've been one of those people that I thought was born a rescuer, a fixer. If there was any things that needed fixing, I would jump right in and provide a solution, thinking that I was helping those people around me. And, I think it came through a conversation that we had once during one of your Empower World training courses, that, what is it serving me to be like this? And, I felt exhausted the whole time. I felt like, oh my God, I'm responsible to make sure that everyone else around me has a happy life, that, they do everything that they needed to do to be able to, progress and continue. But that was exhausting, taking all that responsibility on board. And what did that serve me? Perhaps it's about feeling wanted. So there was a lot of work that had to be done about, what did that mean for me? So what I understood, my dear, was that by giving people the space to learn at their own pace, their own pace, by being there when they really fall down, not right from the beginning and fixing it for them, I was actually serving them better. And there's no better reward than when you see someone actually acquiring or being able to reach their full potential by themselves. That's, I think, the most rewarding side of things. Then if I go on the other side, which is boundaries for myself, it's about learning to recognize that when I have that buzzy feeling like, oh, I can help that person, I can do this, I can jump right in. Like, what is the trigger, and taking that moment to pause and reflect and develop from that, understand, how can I actually give them that space? What's actually happening within me that's getting me all buzzy and excited to help out? What is this saying about me? How am I serving them? How am I serving myself? So all of these questions, Jeanine, is like, it's just so powerful to actually have conversations with myself, to really understand who I am, what triggers me, what doesn't trigger me, and by doing all this, I understand also, what I definitely don't like or want to do ever again, and what I definitely want to repeat. So it's peeling the layers and building boundaries and testing them out and thinking yes, no, shifting them a little bit so that we can learn more. It's an amazing experience that I hope everyone will like to try it out in the future.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing, Kayoko, was that you recognized you recognized a pattern that was providing an experience where you felt drained of energy. So the cost of that strategy of rescuing was draining your energy. And as a consequence, you've created a boundary of saying no to things that you knew weren't giving you energy, and yes to what does give you energy, or yes to what's the most important priority for you. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that you've become much more aware of your physical, your somatic response, because our body will tend to, if not always, respond quicker than our thoughts, or our emotions will respond quicker than our thoughts. So listening to your body, your emotions, pausing before acting, and working out, is this important, or is this my old strategy? Do I need to say yes to this, or do I need to say no to this? That's what I'm hearing, Kayoko.
Yes, and that completely resonates. Exactly what I went through and what I'm actually feeling right now. So thank you for encapsulating that.
Yeah,
So
you're welcome. I remember when I first started going down this path of becoming a coach and learning about personal boundaries and setting our boundaries. And before I really understood what that meant, I thought putting boundaries in place is going to close my world down. That's the belief I had. I like to flow and just go with what's coming up. And then I realized that actually boundaries, when we put in personal boundaries, which are those invisible lines in terms of what we say, yes, we will do that, or no, we won't. When we put those into place, they actually create freedom. They create more space. They create potentially peace, more time for ourselves to put on our oxygen mask and work on the things, or do the things, or experience the things that are most important to us. So that was a real awakening for me. All of a sudden the penny dropped that actually the way that I'm going to live my best life is to put those boundaries in place so that I can absolutely choose, what gives me energy, what inspires me. Or there will be times when there are challenges for the people around me. So where do I enter and where do I step back? And like what you were sharing earlier, Kayoko, is this understanding that potentially because I was a rescuer too, and maybe that comes in from time to time, but I'll hear it and I'll work out, okay, what is it that how do I want to respond to this? And am I constricting someone else's learning and development? Am I not really trusting who they really are and how resourceful they are? Am I supporting them to do old habits that perhaps don't serve them? So it's recognizing sometimes it is potentially important to step in and support people, but ensuring that it's in a way that doesn't stifle or restrict them from their learning. So
that is so true.
That's one of my boundaries, to only step in when I know that they really, I'm thinking of my mum, for example, who's having some health issues. So so I do need to step in and support her and take her to wherever she needs to go, and support her through the challenges she's experiencing. So that's my yes. But my no will be to other areas where I know people, they are incredibly creative and resourceful and can find a way.
And it's interesting, Jeanine, that you mentioned your mum. I hope she feels better soon, and that you take care of yourself while you're doing that too. But me too. I have the blessing of being able to have my mum with me at the moment, and as they need more help, and as rescuers, we tend to go and help where they need it. But it's a constant reminders that we can't do everything, because then we are sort of sometimes allowing them to become too dependent, where they're not able to continue to use the different things like the memory, the confidence to go out, etc. So it's even that, it's a very fine line boundary that we need to constantly remind ourselves in a daily basis on how to tread, so that we're looking after our boundaries, but theirs also.
I really love that you've brought that in. It can be quite subtle, or the lines can sometimes be I can't think of the word or the words. Yes. And it's looking at supporting people to stretch and expand themselves. They don't become reliant, that they can be independent or interdependent. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing that you've brought in. And I'm remembering another boundary that I have put into place. I recognize through all the work again that I've done that, and through extended disc, which Marie and I are assessors in, and there is a strong energy, personality, energy, communication energy within us both, and of inspirer, and that particular energy, it loves variety. It doesn't like the same old routine. It gets distracted very easily, and also loves to be liked and fears not being liked. So I know those things are running within me all the time. So that, and it can distract, and it can mean that I can perhaps double book, triple book myself into events because I want to be liked. And I want to connect. That's the other thing with this energy. It just loves to connect with people, and lots of people. So that energy is really strong within me. So the boundary work has been incredibly, again, powerful and it really connects to our values, understanding, what's most important to us, what's our top priority, what gives us the most energy. So becoming aware of my values, my top values first and foremost, and then recognizing, so what boundaries do I need to put into place to honor those values? And certainly that inspirer energy could get in the way of my purpose, my vision, what it is that I truly want to create in this world, although it's connected. But again, it's working out am I doing some of those things out of fear of not being liked? Am I doing some of those things because I love variety, and just, again, bringing in boundaries, personal boundaries that support me to stop getting distracted, although I still do. And I still find myself wanting to, go to all of these different events, but I've just got to work out, does that really connect with my vision, my purpose? Just a nice to do versus this is actually all part of what I want my life to be. So
and that's beautiful. And if I may share something that's coming up for me, please,
yes.
Jeanine, that's very interesting. That what it's made me realize, and some self-awareness that I want to share, is that you mentioned boundaries and checking in often, and you mentioned also values, which are so important. And one thing that often we talked about being in the comfort zone and stepping out of the comfort zone to be able to grow and develop. And I wanted to ask you, how often do you check in with your boundaries, depending on what zone you're in, whether it's the comfort zone or the new zone? Because they tend to change, right?
Yeah.
And also when you mention values, they also change. Like one of my values before was safety. And that provided me so many boundaries that I was completely restricted. I wasn't able to do anything because I wouldn't take risks, to the point where I actually got rid of that, value altogether. And I put it now in terms of creativity and joy and different things. So, it'll be interesting to know how that works for you.
Thank you for that question. And it's a great question. And I'm just thinking of what you just shared and summarized, and that value of safety, which was mine as well. That was one of my driving values, again, because of this work that I did, because of the programming that my parents created for me, thinking and believing that that's what is needed to keep me safe and to enjoy my life. So safety became a value that was driving my decision making. So again, like you, felt restricted in my life in many ways. There was something else that wanted to emerge, but I often didn't let it because of that safety value. So it's still there, but it's just because we can't get rid of values, but we can just pop it down the order of how we make decisions, and make decisions according to those wonderful top values that you've just shared for you, Kayoko. And so, for coming back to your question, for me, yes, we are potentially changing and expanding all the time, and as we continue to, and you're recognizing that, one of the keys to our happiness is to also grow and learn and expand, come out of the comfort zone. And of course, we want to be in the comfort zone as well, where it's healthy, where we know that, we're potentially with our family, we're doing the things that we love, but we're also going on a journey. And because of this continuous growth that we go through, for me, it's about just checking in and reflecting. And so reflecting from time to time, am I on track? Have things changed? How are things changing for me? And it's also listening to my body, my emotions, my energy, my self-talk, where my focus goes. So it's always listening to that to recognize, so what's happening? How am I showing up now? What's important? How am I being? Who am I being? And what's creating that? So I don't know how often, but for me, it's more about just reflecting, listening in, tuning in, coming out of the day-to-day noise, and giving myself that space to check in with myself so that I can maybe adjust those boundaries from time to time. That answers your question.
Yes, 100%. It's just making me realize how important the topic of boundaries is, and how it's not something that you talk about once, but you need to continue, like as you were mentioning, rechecking, especially as you develop, grow, a lot of opportunities come, distractions, etc. So it's something that's becoming even more evident that it's like a way of working with yourself and others that becomes a pattern and then is well communicated in a subconscious manner. So yeah, very important to deal with boundaries and to be able to acknowledge them, and I understand what role they play. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
And I really appreciate what you've just shared too just now, Kayoko, in terms of communicating our boundaries to others. And so to really support our relationships and how we partner, work, live together is sharing what our boundaries are so that people become clear of who we are and again what's important to us, what can de-energize or inspire and energize us. So yeah, really supporting those relationships.
100%, 100%. And like it goes back to what you were saying about how boundaries serve you in terms of giving freedom. So once people are aware of what supports, what boundaries we have and what supports us and doesn't support us, or we know ourselves, then there's less worrying and anxiety around everything, because they just work. It's like muscles that we just work and get stronger and stronger, and they're serving us as opposed to obstructing us. So yes, a lot of insights that are coming from this great conversation, Jeanine.
Yes, thank you, Kayoko. Thank you for again really reminding me as well as of how important this is. And I'm certainly going to write some reflection up for myself after our conversation. Do a
Likewise.
do a check-in. So, Kayoko, as we start to come to the end of this podcast, what would you recommend to our listeners in relation to boundaries, setting personal boundaries for self to create the freedom, the peace, the energy, the time to be able to prioritize and put oxygen mask on again for self first and foremost, so that we're in a great place to support others, firstly ourselves, to then support others?
I think one of the most important thing is, it's a little bit like the Epicenter series tagline: pause, reflect, and grow. And that is one of the key things, that to be able to actually check in with myself and check in with my boundaries is just pausing. The world is full of distractions everywhere. From the moment I leave home and I'm driving, to the moment I get to work, to the moment I leave home and I go to my family. So just finding that moment to pause and to really check in on what's working, what's not working. How am I actually serving everyone else and myself? So I think the main thing is pausing. Without pausing, we're just living life on autopilot. And it's just, I feel like, passing us by. So pause is extremely important.
And in that pause, which is wonderful, a wonderful piece of advice to support others to connect in with themselves, what kind of questions do you think people can ask themselves to support them?
It's perhaps like listening to what's actually happening inside, what emotions are creeping up every time something happens, that deep down inside. You mentioned this a lot, you and Maria, about using our emotions as a GPS. because they're there for a reason, to serve us. So how do we make sure that we're not sweeping them under the carpet, but actually really having a presence with ourselves, and asking, what am I willing to provide or to give to others, and what am I not? If I'm feeling uncomfortable because someone just asked me something, or asked me to do something, or said something that I didn't like, as opposed to putting it under the carpet and feeling it and thinking, oof, I wish I'd done that. It's like, what can I do to actually have a voice? What can we do to say no? How can we be fair to ourselves? So, I mean, those are the things that are coming up with me right now and are resonating with me. And I guess the reason why they're coming up is because they're very personal to my perhaps experience or my situation. But I mean, what's coming up for you, Jeanine?
Yes, I appreciate what you've shared. And it's, at the end of the day, based on what you've just shared, Kayoko, it's kicked off. It's about self-care. It's about self-love. It's about self-value.
Mm-hmm.
And so these boundaries are important to create in our personal life and our professional life. So we may need to put boundaries into place in all the community parts of our lives, spiritual lives, whatever it may be. So, and I really, again, resonate with that, listening to our emotions that let us know whether we're on track or off track. The good feelings will let us know we're on track. The not so great feelings will let us know we're off track. So getting curious about what's creating them. What are the beliefs? What are the boundaries that are being crossed? What are the values that are being dishonored or honored? So it's potentially just really getting clearer about what you need to say no to and what you need to say yes to, or what you want to say no to and what you want to say yes to create your most compelling life. So there may be some people who perhaps at work get asked to do things that are outside of their role, often because they're reliable, but actually it may tend to lead to overwork, exhaustion, or being taken advantage of. So it's learning to put that boundary of no. So it can be challenging to say no, but also liberating and respecting self. So it's looking for those areas of life where you know that your boundaries are being crossed over. And so your emotions will let you know that, or your body responses. You might be under stress because, again, those boundaries are being crossed. So listening to that stress, what's really going on? So you can make some powerful decisions.
So true, so true. And if I may add one more thing, like in addition to emotion, sometimes our body, through our health, tells us great messages. So sometimes I know that I've been, for example, found that I'm actually wheat intolerant, but I couldn't resist the lovely cakes or the bread or this and that, and the sweet in everything. But my body tells me every time I have wheat that it cannot take it anymore. So there's boundaries even for myself and my health, and the voices in my head thinking one more time is not going to hurt. So there seems to be boundaries everywhere.
There certainly is, and I again resonate with what you've just shared. Also, being intolerant of wheat as well.
We have a lot in common.
we do, Kayoko. So listeners out there, it's about really getting curious again about what's most important to you, what provides you with energy, and your emotions, your body will let you know, your health will let you know if you're crossing over those boundaries that aren't important to you, and de-energize, potentially create stress, leads to ill health. etc., etc. And then again, working out what's most important so that you can say yes to those things. Create the space and open up the space to be authentically you. And so I'm also really, really delighted, as I know Marie is as well, that Kayoko, you and Katie Monpondera are also associates of Empower World and are running the Epicenter series, which is based in Doha, a monthly networking event most months, and doing a wonderful job of bringing and connecting people together to go on a journey of growth, self-care, self-love, to pause, reflect, grow, build relationships, and so much more. So, and I know in this upcoming Epicenter series, which is this Tuesday in Doha at 6 p.m.
It's on Wednesday, 29th.
Wednesday. Thank you for correcting me. And it's all about boundaries, and I know it will be an amazing session. I am in Australia right now, so I'll miss this one, but I know that yourself and Katie will do a beautiful, empowering job. Job doesn't sound right. You'll do a service. I love that. Facilitating again a wonderful group of like-minded people in relation to this powerful work of boundaries. One of the most important things that we can do for ourselves is to really explore boundaries. And so it will be this Wednesday at 6 p.m. For those of you who listen to this podcast after the 29th? Yes. If you listen to this podcast after the 29th of November 2023, then please do have a look at our website, which is www.empower-world.com/epicenter, capital EPICENTRE, for the upcoming events that will be put on by these wonderful women who are doing an amazing job of putting on their oxygen masks and putting their boundaries in place to create this amazing space. So thank you, Kayoko, for coming on to this podcast.
Thank you so much for the experience, and I look forward to welcoming as many as possible. I think this is the one time when we don't want any boundaries, and we want as many people as possible to come and join us and really benefit from this important topic that has really truly helped me in my life and along the way. So look forward to seeing everyone then.
Yeah, thank you, Kayoko. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, please do connect with us, Empower World, and also with Kayoko on LinkedIn, I'm guessing.
Yes, or even through Instagram at Kayoko_Nidsaid. We'll be looking forward to having more conversations through DM with anyone that's interested.
Fantastic. So please do connect with us and share this podcast with people that you believe could benefit from understanding more about boundary work. Thank you, Kayoko. All the best. Thank you, listeners.
So much. I'm empowered. Thank you. Take care of yourself, Jeanine.
Thank you, Kayoko. I'm empowered too.
Thanks for listening. You can find out more about us on our website, www.empower-world.com, and on our social media networks, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Be empowered.